Are you tired of listening to the same tiny handful of mainstream musicals over and over again? Well, you've come to the right place because by popular demand, I'm here to discuss 10 shows that I think are excellent and deserve more love. Maybe if this video does well, I'll make a part 2, who knows. And this is by no means a ranking of my top 10 obscure musicals, just me getting the word out about a lot of lesser-known shows without pitting them against each other. But first of all, what even makes a musical obscure? Is it a low number of internet search trends, a lack of fan content, or a low amount of listeners on major streaming platforms? I've seen Ride the Cyclone on obscure musical lists, for instance, yet that show has a ton of fan animatics and a song with over 47 million Spotify plays. That's over 10 million more than the most popular song on the Hadestown original Broadway cast album, and Hadestown is widely considered to be the most recent big game-changing Broadway hit. So I ran a poll, and it seems like most of you agree that having exactly 2 million plays on any song can constitute obscurity, but given some skepticism in the comments, that might be the hard limit. And as some of you pointed out, sometimes one song can go viral while the show it's from doesn't. So maybe the mean number of streams per song on a cast album is a better measurement, but I didn't become a musical YouTuber so I could do math. So yeah, the criteria is going to be was not on Broadway and most popular song does not have more than 2 million plays. Oh, and to keep it consistent, I'm only including completed musicals that have been staged before at time of writing and are fully available to listen to the cast album of, so no concept albums, no shows that never got a cast album, and no works in progress. There has to be a good enough way of experiencing the full thing. Now that that's explained, let's dive right in with Venice. Venice the Musical by Matt Sachs and Eric Rosen. If you've heard of this musical, there's a decent chance you first found out about it from my boyfriend's videos discussing it and the animatics he commissioned, linked below. But I was the one who first introduced it to him, so I'm not late to the party. I've been into this show since high school. It's a very loose Othello adaptation set in a dystopian future with hip-hop music that's fun and catchy and has just great composition, and a surprisingly star-studded cast for such a small and relatively unknown production. It's a cool concept. Right from the opening, it manages to build so much momentum as it introduces all these key players in the story and their catchy motifs over the course of nearly 8 minutes. I tell you, there is nothing like a good 7+ minute musical song. My favorite song in the show, though, is Last Man, a kind of villainous I Want song for the show's Iago character, Marcos, played by Tony-winning actor Leslie Odom Jr., baby! Whose performance on this album is just fantastic. I don't think the show is perfect or anything. It has some very clunky lyrics here and there, but as Eric Rosen said, this was never intended to be the final iteration. So surreal that he commented about how he's happy James's commissioned animatics gave the show a new life. That's awesome. Mr. Rosen, if you're watching this and still don't know how to get in touch, my boyfriend has a business email and we'd both be delighted to hear from you. You know what's one really good way to find out about new, underground but high-quality small shows? Keeping an eye on one-time Broadway composers to see what they do after. That's been the case for me with Michael R. Jackson, whose work I was first introduced to with A Strange Loop, the best new Broadway musical of the 2020s, don't at me. After A Strange Loop, he's already written 3 new musicals: White Girl in Danger, Complications Ensue, and the one I picked for this video, Teeth. Now, I know about 1 in every 20 of you are kids, so I'm gonna caution up front that Michael R. Jackson's musicals so far have all been pretty R-rated, and Teeth covers a lot of serious topics, so sit this one out if you're a kid or are sensitive to any of the things on screen. With that said, this show rocked my world 2 summers ago. It's a collaboration between Jackson and the award-winning composer and book writer Anna K. Jacobs, a dark comedy about a purity-obsessed evangelical community where some supernatural shenanigans happen that I won't spoil. Think Carrie meets Spring Awakening meets Little Shop of Horrors with just a smidgen of Nerdy Prudes Must Die. The cast is also pretty star-studded, featuring a few former Broadway actors like Bring It On's Jason Gattei and once's Will Connolly. Wow, between him and Teeth and Eric William Morris and White Girl in Danger, I'm so glad the Be More Chill alums now get to be in actually good high school shows. Anyway, I could very much see Teeth gaining a cult following if it ever makes it to Broadway. A Precious Gift was easily my favorite opening number of any 2024 musical. I'm picking that as my favorite song from the show. But just know it was a tight race between that, the title song, and both of Dawn's angsty power ballads. This show is funny, it's biblical, it's Freudian. There are a couple songs I skip, but most of them are bops. Please check it out, and thank you, Michael R. Jackson. Hey, remember what I said like a minute ago about finding cool, obscure shows by keeping up with the post-Broadway work of one-hit wonder Broadway composers? Well, to my mind, no one has more to offer in that department than Dave Malloy, the guy who composed my favorite musical of all time, Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812, then proceeded to do all kinds of weird, avant-garde stuff and never make a commercial show again. You know what? Mad respect. This year he's been making headlines when it was announced that Lin would direct a movie adaptation of his show Octet, but all you guys are late to the party because I was one of the Octet's signature theater cast album's original Kickstarter backers 7 years ago. Rather than talk about Octet for this segment though, I thought I'd just dig a little deeper and highlight a much more criminally under-discussed Malloysical, that being Preludes. Ho ho! The tagline for this show is a musical fantasia set in the hypnotized mind of Sergei Rachmaninoff, and yeah, that's pretty accurate. Basically, the early 20th century Russian composer Rachmaninoff went into a 3-year depression after his first symphony was critically panned, and this show is about him going to therapy for that, all while incorporating some of his actual real-world music. The show's songs run the gamut from soothing to jaunty to just plain weird. Don't be put off by the fact that the first song is almost entirely dialogue. The show does have some highly listenable bangers. I always headbang to Cesar Cui's review in the first symphony. There really is nothing like a good 7+ minute behemoth of a musical song, like I said in the Venice segment. And when the negative voices in Rock's head, played by his fiancé and his therapist, start singing, "You are not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not funny enough, you're not deep enough," ouch. The best song in the show, though, is probably Natalia, in which Nikki M. James plays the character of the same name, Rock's fiancé and, cousin. Okay. At any rate, it's incomparable in its beautiful melancholy. I hope one day I can write a lyric that devastates someone as much as "I know I'm supposed to be the better one, but the truth is I'm no better than you" does to me. Great Comet fans will love this show for its little Dave Malloy-isms, like the anachronisms and the fact that the finale sounds a good deal like the Great Comet finale. Even if you're not a Great Comet fan, why not? This is just an awesome, creative, and unique show. Give it a listen. Woo! Yeah! We are the Tigers, the mighty, mighty Tigers. This is a pretty self-indulgent pick. I've made 4 AMVs of this show's awesome songs, and I'm working on a parody of one of its songs too. Honestly, one of the reasons I set the play count maximum at 2 million was so Tigers could make the cut, but I hardly ever see people talking about it. I mean, okay, it has some pretty big story and pacing problems, like the fact that it's a murder mystery musical where no murder happens until nearly the end of Act 1, past the 7-song mark, and in the end, the murderer just kind of announces they did it apropos of nothing. There's this great video by the Rewrite Machine on how to potentially fix these issues, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Story problems don't really matter if you experience the show as a song cycle, which most people will since there hasn't been a production in 7 years. And the songs are great! The opening is kinda just serviceable, but by song 2, the show really finds its footing. Don't Even is my favorite song from Tigers. It's so catchy and relatable, with fantastic harmonies and blending of the whole cast's voices. The most popular song in the show for good reason, and it honestly feels like it could have been the opening. Wallflower is another highlight, with excellent counterpoint and repartee between Riley, played by Lauren Zakrin, and Cairo, played by Wonu Ogunfuwara. Before the Breakdown is the kind of cathartic angst song I wish I'd had in high school. This show is so good at portraying how hard and impossible and scary being a teenage girl is. "You don't know who you are until you hate yourself" is a real all-timer line. In a similar vein, Move On, not that one, wrecks me. Easily the hardest I've cried at any show in this video. It's an ensemble cast where every character gets a chance to shine. Maybe to the detriment of the story and pacing, but oh well. I could yap about this show a lot more. It really is a personal favorite for me as much as I've criticized it, but let's keep things moving. another way to find good obscure musicals? The international musical scene. A lot of the non-American shows I've found have come from Germany. I guess there is an inherent affinity between the American musical and the German Singspiel, a form of opera with talking and singing. Speculation aside, this German show I'm recommending today is called Die Päpstin, based on the story of Popess Johanna, the legendary female pope of the Middle Ages. The music is for the most part very medieval style, like it feels like bardcore or Ren Fair music. There's even this one song that kind of sounds like the Legend of Zelda main theme, Jahrmacht in Saint-Denis. But all the best songs in the show are sung by Johanna herself, played by former German Elphaba Sabrina Weckerlin. She has this beautiful, big, sweeping love song called Wehrlos that I just love. I mean, I made 2 AMVs of it, and she also sings my favorite song in the show, a mournful solo ballad called Einsames Gewand, or Lonely Robe, that I translated into English and made a cover of. It's a great show to start with if you're looking to dip your toes into the wide world of non-English language musicals, because the plot is pretty straightforward, and the music is fun and mostly jovial to listen to. The villain song, Parasit der Macht, even sounds like a Frank Wildhorn song. And speaking of German musicals and Frank Wildhorn... Artus Excalibur is a German-language musical composed by Frank Wildhorn, of Jekyll Bonnie and Death Note fame, about King Arthur that I first found out about in 2020. I immediately fell in love with this show and became so obsessed that I wrote several English translations of Nina Schneider's wonderful German lyrics before realizing that the show was originally written in English and translated into German. Oops. Look, in my defense, the German version has this whole cast album and pro shot that's free on YouTube, but the only traces of the English version online seem to be a sub 1,000 view cover of Voging die Liebe hin, or How Do You Make Love Stay, and a handful of likewise minimally popular covers of Nur Sie allein, Never to Love. The English title also seems to be just Excalibur, which is a little confusing, so for purposes of this video, I'm just gonna stick with Artus Excalibur as the title and treat the 2014 St. Gallen performance in German as the official one, since it's the only one with an easily accessible cast recording. And what a cast recording it is! It has this medieval high fantasy bardcore sound at times, but it also adds a lot of very contemporary rock elements, which leads to so many absolute bops like Schwert und Stein, Arthur's song about not wanting his grand destiny, Sünden der Vater, Morgan Le Fay's introductory villain song, and Morgen triffst du den Tod, the song about Arthur, Lot, and Morgan going into battle. That's gotta be my favorite in the show for how intense, ominous, and militaristic it sounds and how well it integrates the whole company. Yeah, Frank Wildhorn knows how to make some bangers. I have this inside joke with my friends that the more evil a Frank Wildhorn character is, the cooler their song sounds, since his villain songs always seem to be my favorite. And this song is just super, like, intense hatred, throwing down the gauntlet, ready to grind you into dust and whatever. It's chef's kiss, really. Mwah. I watched the pro shot on YouTube with James, and we both agreed that as far as King Arthur musicals go, this one has a much better story than Camelot. I know Camelot is classic, I'm not saying that this musical is better than Camelot, but for one thing, Artus Excalibur actually uses Morgan Le Fay, who's one of the coolest characters in Arthurian legend, and that alone adds so much more conflict and tension to the story. Camelot the musical is great at a lot of things, but writing villains is not one of them. Mordred in Camelot just shows up one day and politely sings about how evil he is, whereas here the villains are actually out here doing stuff. And this version of Lancelot, oh man, his song Nur Sie allein, it's no If Ever I Would Leave You, but it is an achingly gorgeous unrequited love song if I've ever heard one. I can't recommend Mark Siebart's English cover Never to Love enough. When the unrequited love song starts with "Dear God, let me be hidden from her sight," you know you're in for some top shelf yearning. Anyway, yeah, check out the pro shot and let me know if I should release covers of Never to Love Jess's version and Sins of the Father Jess's version and whatnot, because I am just sitting on these translated lyrics that I have nothing to do with. Ba, 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 ba. Oh boy! it's time for the gay Catholic Romeo and Juliet musical. Even just conceptually, Bear a Pop Opera is right up my alley as a Shakespeare-obsessed bisexual girl who went to Catholic school for 12 years. Well, okay, the show doesn't always do Shakespeare the best. Sometimes the emphasis and scansion is a little weird. Anyway, as you'd expect from the title, this is a high school show with a very pop and rocky score, but it still has a different sound from most high school musicals through the integration of Catholic church music and other genres like rave music and even a Diana Ross pastiche. It's the most popular show on this list, very much teetering near that 2 million plays mark I set. There's a 2016 Buenos Aires production in Spanish with a full pro shot on YouTube, although fair warning that Sister Chantel, who sings the Diana Ross song, has been whitewashed in this version and is now based on Lady Gaga instead. Why? I once saw someone say this was their favorite musical solely for how well it uses its recurring musical motifs, and that's completely fair. This score is gorgeous and just rocks. My pick for the best song, right from the first time I ever listened to this show in high school, was Ivy's Act 2 power ballad in C-sharp minor, All Grown Up, although be warned that it contains massive spoilers. Not to mention how great Jason and Peter's 11th hour love song Bear is, which of course ended up on James's and my personal list of the best love songs in musicals. Sorry falsetto fans, we forgot that, we forgot Unlikely Lovers, it was a accident. This is one of the shows that got me through high school, and for all its many issues, I will always have a soft spot for it. The show had a revival in LA last year and has had productions in over 10 different countries, so even if the 2008 album has never cracked 2 million plays, I think this one has remained a certified cult classic. For bragging rights, get into it before the movie version that was announced 8 years ago comes out. Trust me guys, it's gonna happen. In the Green might have the coolest concept of any of the shows on this list. It's Grace McLean's one-act, off-Broadway, all-female show based on the life and work of Hildegard von Bingen, a 12th century German writer, saint, poet, philosopher, composer. Honestly, what can't this woman do? It's definitely very experimental and not your typical musical theater sound, reflecting how anatomized Hildegard feels after her, quote, life-shattering experience of losing her sister Agatha. Actually, in this show, she literally is anatomized into 3 characters called Eye, Hand, and Mouth, who sometimes sing in unison and sometimes argue with each other, and ultimately have to be reintegrated back together with the help of Hildegard's teacher Jutta, played by McLean herself. I really like the song Little Life. It has such a sharp back and forth between them. Like Preludes, this show includes some songs that the real-life composer it's based on wrote. It can be very depressing, trigger warning for sexual assault in the title song, but also very hopeful. My favorite song in the show is the first verb. It has such strong momentum, and the feeling of something coming alive. And I cannot keep me down is a great line. If that sounds interesting to you, give it a listen. My next pick is a very Star Kid adjacent little indie show called Starry by Matt Don and Kelly Lynn D'Angelo, which adapts the letters between Vincent van Gogh and his brother Theo. Even though this is a show about Van Gogh, it's actually not really depressing. The tone is pretty consistently either calming, funny, or hopeful. Dylan Saunders' voice as Vincent is so soothing in this. I sometimes forget how good a singer he is in serious songs when I mostly remember him as Jafar in Twisted. His big Act 2 solo Starry Night is pretty handily the best song in the show. It's so vivid and full of wonder. The sky is full of light, swirling in spirals bold and bright. That is how you do a darn internal rhyme. It's so sneaky and natural, you hardly notice it. Okay, what else? It took me an embarrassingly long time to realize that the opening number being titled Impress Me was a play on, you know, Impressionism. As I'm sure you all know by now, I put a lot of stock into meticulously polished lyrics, and this show isn't always the best at that, but you can tell it comes from a place of passion and has so much heart. The 2020 album also has some of the original demos as bonus tracks. That's pretty cool. Give it a chance. It might impress you. Once upon a time, I was playing video games with a friend in college, and she mentioned that her favorite musical was some super niche show even I'd never heard of called Cambodian Rock Band. It's an off-Broadway rock epic set in the 70s about a man who fled the Khmer Rouge, coming back to Cambodia 30 years later. The author, Lauren Yee, and the company that has the licensing rights for Cambodian rock band technically describe it not as a musical, but as a play featuring music. But if it has an album recording of the original stage cast, I think I count that as a musical. And it integrates pre-existing songs into the story in the way a jukebox musical would. Don't let the grim subject matter turn you off this show. Its rock songs are a vibe and a half. My favorite song is the opening, the Cambodian pop hit JC Klo. This is the shortest cast album on this list, clocking in at just over 36 minutes, but that just means a minimal time investment to hear this awesome original cast. So yeah, those were 10 obscure musicals I recommend. Feel free to let me know in the comments how many you knew about going into this video, and don't be embarrassed if the answer is none, because that just means I did a good job. You may have noticed that all of these were 21st century shows, and that's because I feel like what makes an older show obscure is very different from what constitutes an obscure show nowadays. In fact, I plan on making a sequel to this video in collaboration with my good friend Lauren Rogers about obscure old school musicals we like and want people to know about. So get hyped for that, and scene.